What's going on, everyone? This is Sarge, and this is another Battlefield discussion where I talk amongst a true legend. His name is Daskro, and he's from a widely known competitive Battlefield team called 20ID. Now, these guys have been around since the beginning and dominating in competitive leagues from 1942 and onwards, such as Cal, CEVO, TWL, you name it. They've been going to LAN centers and they've been dominating there as well. And it's an impressive record that they have. And again, they are widely known because they have been a part of Battlefield since the beginning and have been competing as a team since the beginning as true legends. And I'm not only huge fans, but also big clans that are dominating now, such as Rival, are also big fans of these guys. And so it's a privilege to get to talk to them and see where they're going to take their team in the direction of Battlefield 3. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the discussion. So I think the first thing I want to open up with is exactly who you guys are. So if you can explain to me what 20ID is.
My name is Daskro, and I'm the team leader of Team 20ID. 20ID has been around since 1998, and we've been playing Battlefield competitively since 2003 when the game first came out. We have played in every Battlefield game since 1942, and we've actually done pretty well for ourselves. We are one of the oldest teams, and we've attended numerous LAN events and tournaments, and we were even showcased on the Championship Gaming Invitational, which was a now defunct LAN event on DirecTV, in which we were showcased with likes of Warchild and a number of European teams. On top of all this, we also play a few other games. We've played Team Fortress 2 and had top teams on that game, as well as the Call of Duty series, be it Call of Duty 2, Call of Duty 4, or Call of Duty Black Ops. All in all, we play these games because they are fantastic to play, and we are really looking forward to Battlefield 3, as we think that it is going to be a great game that not only is fun to play for the casual person, but also a great competitive game that allows the top teams to really shine as this game comes out.
What kind of calibration does it take to put together a team for Battlefield, as opposed to, like, let's say, Call of Duty or Counter-Strike? Like, are there different levels of coordination that you guys need to work together well, not just putting the team together, but also playing competitively?
Well, it's important to take in mind that Battlefield differentiates itself relative to other competitive first-person shooter games in that it still follows a rock, paper, scissors philosophy, which is to say that infantry players are going to get killed if they try to go against a tank. And that tank is going to get killed if it goes against a helicopter. And that helicopter is going to get killed if it goes against a jet. It's a big circle. And because there is that big circle, it requires that top teams have a diverse skill set of players who can specialize in being a helicopter gunner, or being a jet pilot, or being an infantry person. And even within the infantry world, there's differentiation. There's infantry that are at the front lines, launching grenades and getting those crack shots. But there's also infantry that specialize in anti-tank. And teams have to make a choice when they play. Do I want to have an infantry team that's mostly positioned to take out enemy infantry, or do I need to change up that mix at a certain point within the game to combat vehicles through anti-tank infantry? It's that sort of decision making that is required when not only forming a team but also executing it. When you look at a given map, you'll find that there are certain vehicle assets and topography within the map that require different types of players. There were certain maps in Bad Company 2, such as Atacama Desert, that had 2, if not 3, heavy tanks. With those 3 heavy tanks, it required you to have 3 players who were fantastic at playing armor. It also had a helicopter, and because of that, you needed to have players that can not only fly that helicopter, but have a gunner in place that could effectively suppress enemy infantry and also do damage to those tanks, so that your team could push up and grab those points in conquest mode and push the enemy back. You may very well have a great infantry team or a great tank team, but if you're missing one of those key critical elements, and your helicopter piloting is good, and and gets shot down more often than it should, you'll find that the enemy team has a helicopter always up, and that helicopter will be a thorn in your side to the point where you lose your competitive advantage, even though you may have certain advantages within your infantry or certain advantages within your tanks. It's that balance that is required to play effectively within Battlefield.
What are you exactly looking forward to in Battlefield 3, going into Battlefield 3? Because that's going to be, do you consider that a new challenge for you guys? Are there lots of things that you are kind of worried about or looking forward to?
Well, we're looking forward to Battlefield 3 as going back to the old school play styles of Battlefield 1942 and Battlefield 2, in that we have a competitive environment that requires all the sort of skill sets that I've talked about. It requires not just an infantry heavy team or a vehicle heavy team, but requires all of that. And what that means is that it means that the competitive landscape will be conquest type, 8v8, but ideally, I'd love to see 10v10 or 12v12. Back in 1942 and Battlefield 2, it was played with those scales of players. Often we think about Call of Duty or we think about Counter-Strike, where we have teams of 5 or 6, and that is a lot of players on the ground. Battlefield is about having dozens of players in combat against one another, where you can have a gun and shooting some other infantry guy, 200 yards in front of you, and then look up in the sky and see a helicopter raining down fire on the enemy, or see a jet just stream on by and shoot a missile into that helicopter. And combined with Battlefield's new destructive environment, it makes it not only more captivating, but it also adds a new element of competitive gameplay to it.
They have some suppression fire, which is something new.
Yes.
Where you're firing at somebody and it causes their aim to go off a little bit, or to blur out. So that was pretty neat too.
I think that what we'll find within the competitive Battlefield scene as it progresses is that those new elements, such as the environment that can be destroyed or manipulated, or even suppressing fire or the use of smoke, are going to create an environment in which teams can be even more innovative than what they've been in the past. People seem to think that, or people like to think that, Battlefield games, just like other first-person shooter games, are very linear. You have players and they shoot each other, and the tactics and strategies that they employ are all pretty well understood. But even going back to Battlefield 1942, there was, even when 20ID and Demise and the Final Stand and a slew of other great teams were at their prime, there was an unknown team that we played against that figured out that you could take the artillery pieces within Battlefield 1942, place them in a given area, and then look at those artillery pieces up into the sky and look at a given pixel, because the skyline in 1942 was fixed. It was static. It didn't move around like in Bad Company 2.
Yeah.
And they could shoot that artillery shell, and that artillery shell would fly all the way up into the sky, and then it would arc back down, and it would hit our tank when it spawned in at our base. This was huge.
Yeah.
this redefined
yeah.
How you could utilize artillery assets and other assets like tanks to deny the enemy the ability to utilize their own assets when they respond.
Are there any cons in regards to what has been released so far for Battlefield 3, according to you guys?
One of the things that I have noticed, at least in the competitive scene, is how that the recon or sniper class has been sort of an afterthought. While it was a noteworthy class within Bad Company 2 and all the previous Battlefield games, it's been something that teams really didn't focus that much of. Having a sniper or a recon class simply wasn't that much value added relative to having another infantry guy or having someone else to man a vehicle.
I remember that too. The recon classes from the previous games weren't really a heavy class to select.
But I see all these various rumors in place talking about how that this recon class is going to have all of these special perks that are going to be unique to that class. And some of the perks seem like to be huge game changers. And while it's all rumor at this point of how these perks operate, things like radio beacons, things like UAVs and other abilities to gain intel are critical. I mean, consider this. In Battlefield 2, there was a commander. Well, what did that commander do? That commander could do really, at least in the competitive scene, only a handful of things. It could call in a UAV, and that UAV could provide intelligence, or basically show on everyone's minimap where the enemies are in a small area for a certain period of time. It could call in supply drops, which could then be used to heal players and heal vehicles and provide ammo. And it also was able to provide artillery strikes, raining down a close fire support in a very localized area, which could be decisive in the game. So top teams dedicated a player just to fulfill that role. That player stayed in the back of the base and just looked on a map for 20 minutes. If we have a recon class in Battlefield 3 that can provide those sort of game-changing elements, then that class becomes relevant again. And I'd love to see that happen, because I want to see every class utilized. I want to see every vehicle utilized, and I want to see all the perks utilized, because those options in terms of differentiation become critical.
What are some of the teams that you're looking forward to in regards to competitive Battlefield? Are there any teams out there that you're hoping that come back, that you've played with before, or maybe teams that you're familiar with in the old days that are that you might know that are going to be playing Battlefield 3? Are there any other teams out there that you would like to probably give a shout out to?
Sure. Well, all of the top Bad Company 2 teams are coming back, or at least most of them. And when I think of the top Battlefield Bad Company 2 teams, I think of teams like Rival, teams like Legacy, teams like Next Level and Massive Unit. These are teams that have proven themselves in Bad Company 2 to be fantastic teams. And what's interesting about it is that some of those teams were not nearly as well known within Battlefield 2 or Battlefield 2142. And while they have been playing the games for nearly as long as I have, they have built up a not only a good skill set, but also a solid team of players that are dedicated to playing well. But I also am looking forward to a lot of the older teams that may be coming back. I think of teams like Check 6, teams like Dynamic, teams like Warchild. These teams are ones that have been around since the beginning, and they have consistently come back and played again. There's many other ones, such as Area 51, TFS. These teams are what make the community. It's not just the top teams; it's all the teams that have consistently played throughout the years. And I would even like to see Team Hot come back in some capacity. They were the team that dominated Battlefield 2 and were our chief adversary, and not just BF2 but 2142. And while many of those guys have continued to play, I'd love to see them all come back and play the game competitively once again. A lot of the teams that are out there, they're made up of players, and those players have been around for a long time. And many of the best teams out there, like Team Rival or Next Level or Legacy, they're made up of players who were on heavyweight teams in the past. And while those teams have dissolved or simply fallen to the wayside, the players still live on, and they are what make this community strong.
That's right. That's correct. Well, very well said. And I think that concludes our interview, and I think we're definitely going to be looking forward to Battlefield 3. I think many people who are out there who are going to jump on the competitive scene, who are going to be fairly new, are going to get a little bit of insight on exactly how a competitive player thinks and what the structure it takes to formulate a team. So hopefully that they listen to this, that they will get you know, some sort of insight about who you guys are and where you guys come from. And it's a privilege for me to get to talk to you guys, because I'm not only, I know Rival, I've had a discussion with them, and I'm big fans of Rival, but I'm also a huge fan of you guys too. And I've been around for a long time, but I've always kept up with the competitive scene with 20ID, Team Hot. I'm very familiar with all those guys, and so it's a great privilege for me to get to talk with you guys. And I thank you a lot for having this interview with me.
Well, Sgt.Enigma, you know, while us competitive players have been around for a long time, I will tell you that your contribution in expanding the BF community to YouTube is just as significant as the efforts that we've done. It's people like you that are letting the casual gamer know what Battlefield's all about, and not only that, but also giving them a glimpse into what the competitive side looks like. Not many people know that it exists, or and the more people that know about that, and the contributions that you make to that are profound, and for that I thank you.
Well, that concludes our interview for today. Thanks again for tuning in onto that brief short discussion. I have the full and uncut version listed in the description below. One thing I want to mention is gamersportal.com is doing an event with 20ID that you guys can tune in onto. Check out their website at gamersportal.com. It's a community website that brings together players from all over to share their experiences online. Another thing I want to mention is Concept Battlefield, which is being run by Hawkeyes from Legacy Esports. It's putting this website together to bring the competitive nature together, and it'll give you information. It's a hub where you can learn about all the top leagues that are running right now in the competitions for Battlefield 3, including all the players that are participating in these events. So tune in onto that website as well. Don't forget to subscribe to both Quantic Media or my channel for more Battlefield content, commentaries, tutorials, and more. Thanks again, guys. Take care. Bye.